why are oil prices falling so much right now in 2020? What's going on here, and how is it going to affect the United States and our economy? Let's find out. If you've gotten gas in the past month, you've probably noticed that prices have continued to go down, and they're actually really, really low. As a matter of fact, when I went to refill my tank just today, gas was just over $1 a gallon, which is pretty good for the consumer, but it's not necessarily good for the economy. I mean, if you look here, you see that US oil has gone negative for the first time. This chart generally shows the price of a barrel of crude oil. But now that it's negative, that means there's significantly more supply than there is demand, and nobody really wants any more oil because they don't have any more room to store it. So why is gas so low? There are two main reasons. First, it's because there is a current price war going on between Saudi Arabia and Russia. They're each trying to price each other out of the market essentially by lowering the prices. It seems Saudi Arabia was the one who instigated this, so I guess you could blame them a little bit for that. However, what's having probably more of a dramatic effect is the crisis that we're in right now. During this crisis, the demand for oil and gas has decreased faster than pretty much anybody could have anticipated. What this means is that since supply has continued to go up, people are still producing it, but the demand has decreased dramatically, and that makes sense because a lot of individuals are no longer going to work, or at least are driving significantly less than they used to. But it's not just driving, it's also the airlines. According to this report, the number of airline passengers decreased by 95% from this week compared to the same week last year. That is an astronomical decrease. Because no one is traveling anymore, whether it be through airlines or just driving, the price of gas and oil has decreased dramatically. And presumably, this demand will not recover until people start going to work again or start traveling. But now the question is, why is that a big deal? For consumers, this seems like a good thing. Because sure, you save a little bit of money when you go to fill up your tank. But it has long-term ramifications that we should be aware of. For example, hundreds of US oil companies and perhaps even energy companies could go bankrupt because of this. If the main product that you sell suddenly decreases dramatically in its price, your company is not going to be taking in very much profit. And so you could very well go bankrupt, which is what we're seeing here. We have a number of oil companies that stocks have gone down dramatically, more than 2/3 of their value. This indicates that the companies are not doing very well and are basically on the road to bankruptcy. One of them, Whiting Petroleum, has already declared. So it does not look good for these oil companies. But that's not just going to affect the big oil execs or big oil or whatever you want to think about. There are real normal people working in these industries, and they're probably going to lose their jobs. If these oil companies do go under, that's just going to add even more Americans onto unemployment on top of the already 22 additional million who have applied over the past 4 weeks alone. So it's another industry that is being hit really hard right now because of this crisis. In addition, because the oil prices are sinking so fast, the US Treasury yield is also falling fairly quickly. It's not just worrying about this crisis right here and the pandemic, it's also how it's going to affect these companies in the long run and how it's going to affect you, especially if you work at one of these companies or have some sort of business deal with them. Even though we may appreciate as a consumer the decreased price in oil and in gas, just be aware that it comes at an expense. More people may lose their jobs if this continues, and as a last resort, it's entirely possible that the US government will look into these as some sort of bailout. That they may decide to pay off these oil companies like they did with the banks back in 2008. Because our government loves to spend money on things it can't afford, it's a real possibility. Anyway, I hope you're staying safe during this crisis. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.